It's almost like the Toyota designers used a pretty attractive looking washing machine as the inspiration.
The problem with these mechanically, because of their age and their price, it raises a lot of questions about their neglect and how they've been treated.
This is a really great example of Toyota dropping the ball. Okay, yes, the Toyota Corolla, it is the highest selling car in the world, and they have this amazing reputation for reliability. But my God, can't they be boring? In fact, even Toyota realized this because back in the early 2000s, they attempted to spice up the range and released this. The problem is, however, when you start prioritizing things like performance and fun, often reliability can take a bit of a hit. Plus, this generation of Corolla is 20 years old, so how are they aging? What goes wrong with these now? What do they like to drive and live with? And should you ever seriously consider buying one? Well, I'll tell you what, how about we answer all of those questions and so many more? But I should mention, even though our test car is a Sportivo, and we are going to be focusing primarily on these, loads of what we're going to be talking about will relate to the more sensible Corolla models as well. Also, the range that we're talking about spans from 2001 to 2007, although there was a mid-cycle update in 2004. Sedan, hatch, and wagon body styles were available. While the hatch-only 6-speed Sportivo was powered by a more potent 1.8-litre 4-cylinder engine, the majority of the range made do with something a little bit more sensible. As far as the trim specs go, hatchbacks like this were available in 6 variants. Sedans, well, you're going to have 4 flavours, and in the wagon, just 3. Internationally, there were a load of other variants, plus there were quite a few spicy and tasty highlights. Europe and the UK received the Corolla T-Sport, or TTE compressor, which is ostensibly a supercharged version of our Sportivo. Interestingly, that supercharged power plant eventually found its way into the engine bay of the Lotus Exige. And then for those of us that love a fast wagon, Japan received the Corolla Fielder Z Aero Tourer, which is basically a Sportivo wagon. And yeah, that is as cool as it sounds. And speaking of all things international, if you're considering buying one of these, because, you know, Japanese cars have a fantastic reputation for build quality and reliability, you need to know that the Sportivo model, and actually a host of the other Corollas in this generation, they weren't made in Japan for Australian markets. They were actually made in South Africa. That's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just not Japan. But back to our local market, as far as pricing goes, really cheap, dodgy ones are asking about $2,000. Mint condition examples of higher spec models, about $13,000. And in terms of the actual Sportivo models, they currently range from about $5,000 for the nasty ones, up to about $13,000 for the really, really premium ones. But the thing is, if you're hunting in this budget and you want something with hot hatch sensibilities, you've got some other options. If you're happy to potentially forego some reliability, you have the Peugeot 206 or 208 GTI, Renault Clio Sport 182 or 197, Mini Cooper S, and the Alfa Romeo Giulietta. If something a little bit larger and substantially more powerful seems attractive, check out the Mazda 3 MPS, Ford Focus XR5 Turbo, Volvo C30 R-Design, Volkswagen Golf GTI, Opel or Holden Astra VXR, or the Subaru WRX hatch. And if you're happy to go larger again and swap the hatch body for a sedan, well, then you've got the Mazda 6 MPS, Honda Accord Euro, and Subaru Liberty GT. However, as you can see, plenty of those options, they cannot match the Sportivo's reputation for reliability and affordable maintenance costs, and also plenty of them don't make a lot of financial sense, which is critical when you're looking at this sort of budget. And that's why it is absolutely critical that you get the very best possible finance package that you can, and that's why you need to hit the Driver link down there. Driver will source you quotes from loads of different lenders so you know you're getting the best deal. The entire process is done easily online, and applying is completely free, and it's going to have no impact on your credit score. Please don't get ripped off, hit that Driver link below. Now, as I'm sure you can tell, this particular Sportivo is not exactly standard. The thing is, that's how you're going to find the vast majority of Sportivos on the used market. But the thing is, we feel this Sportivo is a really good representation of what is on the used market. It's not completely stock, obviously, but it also hasn't been ruined with just a boatload of shitty mods. For me, I think the drop in ride height on the standard rims is a really good look. It looks the business. The white wall tyres, that's sure to divide opinion. I'm sure we're going to read that in the comments. But the thing I love about this budget of performance car is that it's just such a great way to express yourself through modifying a car. Also, you forget just how small this generation of Corolla is. In fact, it's lower and narrower than the current GR Yaris, and it's only about that much longer. Still, in standard and lower spec form, it's not exactly the most visually appealing car, is it? It's almost like the Toyota designers used a pretty attractive looking washing machine as the inspiration, or they went, oh, okay, you guys need a car, okay, here we go, we'll design car. No frills, nothing exciting, just car. But thanks to this simplicity with the exterior, that means not a whole lot goes wrong with the exterior. Okay, it's a 20-year-old car. If it's left out in the Australian climate with no TLC, the paint and clear coat, that's known to fade, that's to be expected. Also, a lot of the plastics, they can get a bit brittle at this age. Again, that's to be expected. That's not a Corolla thing. If you leave any car out in the Australian climate for 20 years without TLC, things are gonna go a bit pear-shaped. And aside from that, we really struggled to find any problems that we would regard as common, even as far as electrical gremlins and corrosion issues that so many cars of this era or vintage can suffer from, these seem to avoid. But the big issues that you might run into, unfortunately, come down to the previous owner or owners. Often people buying Corollas of this generation are on the tightest of budgets, and unfortunately that can mean cutting costs when it comes to fixing accident damage. That means dodgy repair work. If there's any dodgy repair work, that can create a whole bunch of headaches, including things like corrosion. And then with how affordable and P-plate friendly the Sportivo models are, this can often result in accident damage due to the driver's lack of ability and experience. Not to mention, so many of them have just been ruined with shitty mods. If the one you're looking at has been lowered, and let's be honest, chances are it has been, just make sure that the previous owner hasn't been a complete dickhead and just cut the springs or fit cheap and nasty coilovers, because that is both stupid and dangerous. Also, you need to find out as much as you possibly can about the vehicle's history. Make sure you get a full pre-purchase inspection carried out and get yourself a vehicle history check. It's going to tell you if there's any money owing on the vehicle, if it's ever been written off, or if it's stolen. And to get one, hit the link down there or head to ReDriven.com. Now, as far as common complaints and issues inside, according to the owners, if the leather on the seats hasn't been meticulously maintained, and let's be honest, most of them haven't, the leather eventually shrinks and then cracks. Obviously, you could have the seats reupholstered, but if the budget allows, maybe spend some money and put some better sports seats in, because this will mitigate one of the other complaints that owners have, that the seating position is too high and the seats themselves just aren't supportive enough. I should mention as well, on the non-leather interior Corollas, according to the owners, the fabric wears incredibly well. Next up, this middle console flappy door thing, it will break off. According to the owners, it's a matter of when, not if. The issue here is, because it's got this textured finish on it, while you can buy like a replacement door from another Corolla, getting it to actually match is going to be a challenge because most Corollas don't have this textured finish. In saying that, a lot of owners use this as an opportunity to strip all the paint off it and repaint the whole thing, or as Azad, the owner of this car, has done, just glue this in place so it doesn't come off or open at all. Next up, make sure all of the buttons in the interior actually work, especially the HVAC buttons. This is a really common issue with these things. It's not a big deal, it just means that the contacts on the back of them need redoing by now. Okay, this next one isn't a really common issue, but it can happen if the car is left out in the sun all of the time. The dashboard itself can warp and eventually crack. The good news here is it's a Corolla. Getting a replacement dashboard is going to be easy. It's going to be inexpensive. The issue is replacing a dashboard in a car is a massive job. But aside from the common issues and complaints, about the only other complaint we could find was that this interior isn't all that inspiring to look at. And that's understandable with the age of the car and what this car's market was when it was brand new. It's a bit like the exterior. It's just like, here's a car's interior. It exists. One thing that many owners have complimented, but, and no surprise with how many hard plastics are in here, is just how resilient these interiors are. This particular car, it's got nearly 150,000 Ks on the clock. It gets used every single day. And I'm really surprised at how well the interior is wearing. Okay, the leather's getting pretty tough now. It feels like a bit of an old saddle. There are the obvious scratches here and there, and there's a bit of, paint missing here and there again, but that's to be expected. Overall, for the age of the car and the kilometers and the use this gets, I think the wear and tear is very, very good. Actually, just on this particular car, as a thank you present to Azad for lending it to us, he's going to be going home with a set of these bad boys, WiperTech wiper blades. But we don't want you feeling left out. So if you hit the WiperTech link below, that will allow you to order a set online. They're super easy to fit. You're going to get free express shipping to your door, and you're going to get 15% off. And they work so well that we use them on all of our cars. These things are awesome. Also, while we're talking about the owners, okay, a massive thank you to everyone in the Corolla and Sportivo forums and owners groups, especially Sportivo Society and Toyota Corolla Sportivo on Facebook, the Aussie groups. You guys are legends. Thank you so much for all your help. Also on the owners, I completely agree with you because I used to be an owner. I used to have one of these, but the reason I sold it was that I just couldn't get the ergonomics right. When this is in my driving position, about there, the steering wheel is just still too far away for me. I like where the gear knob is versus the steering wheel. That's really good, but the seats and the height, I couldn't get it right. I wish the car had so much more adjustability. And Toyota, you go marketing this thing as a sporty performance hot hatch. Where are the sporty seats? You forgot them. Now, as far as actually using the interior, as far as practicality goes, it's okay. You've got decent sized glove box there. The door bins are crap. They're too narrow. This will always be broken, so it's either going to be glued on or it's going to be missing, so there is storage there. There is also storage here, and Azad showed me how to open it, but it's a little sketchy, so I'm not going to open it. Trust me, there's storage behind there. You've got cup holders down here, which are also somewhat adjustable in size, and that can be a good spot for your phone if you take out one of the dividers. It fits perfectly there. Got little cubby bin in here. Spot for life's filth just there. Another tiny little storage compartment there, but nowhere for sunglasses, nothing under the seats, no little funky net there. Not too bad for practicality. In terms of what equipment and features you're going to get, let's take a bit of a less is more approach here, because Toyota seem to really embrace the whole minimalistic approach to life when presenting this car. It doesn't have a lot of stuff. As standard, base models feature a 4-speaker stereo, central locking and an immobilizer. Move up the range and you can expect all the usual stuff like air conditioning, power windows, and even a velour upholstery and wood grain interior trim. And the Sportivo, well, it improves the stereo with 6 speakers, plus you get climate control and Optitron instrumentation, which just means that it's being lit by LEDs. Obviously, you can forget about modern phone connectivity like Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, even Bluetooth in these, but you should do what Azad has done and fit a quality aftermarket head unit, which will give you all of that technology. That way you can also fit a reversing camera, parking sensors, and whatever other tech you'd like. Now, in the back seat of this 2005 Toyota Corolla, I'm exactly 5 centimeters taller than 2005 Toyota Formula One driver Ralf Schumacher. This is in my driving position, and you know what? It's pretty impressive. I've got more legroom than I would find in plenty of modern hatchbacks of a similar kind of style as this. The seats are really comfy, good amount of headroom, it feels quite spacious. This is way more comfortable than I was expecting. Now, as far as wear and tear in the back seat goes, with how popular these are amongst P-platers, I'm sure this back seat has had quite the workout. Luckily, it is leather, so it can just wipe clean, but the wear and tear back here is quite good. The leather feels way softer than up front. There are no scratches on the door cards, a few little marks on the backs of the seats here from probably people's feet. But yeah, overall, wear and tear, good in this one. As far as features and practicality in the back seat, you've got a couple of map pockets here. You've got a spot perfectly designed for your prophylactic wrapper just here, and also a spot for having a cigarette afterwards. And as far as practicality in the boot goes, nothing interesting here. There's enough room for a couple of subwoofers, and the seats, they don't fold completely flat. Now let's talk about an aspect of the car that is about as low on the priority list for many Sportivo owners as it gets: safety features. Unfortunately, being a car from the early noughties, it's not all that safe. But to take you through the safety features that you can expect, we're going to have somebody from this car's country of manufacturer take you through the list in one of their native languages.
Aanvanklik was dit toegerus met 'n enkele bestuurder se lugsak, maar dubbele lugsakke is vanaf 2002 bekendgestel en afhangende van die jaarmodel en afwerkingsspesifikasie kan jy ook sluitweerremme, elektroniese remkragverspreiding en remhulp verwag.
Okay, now to common complaints and faults when it comes to the driving experience. One of the problems with having a small capacity, high revving 4-cylinder engine is that they lack torque low in the rev range, and like many owners, including myself, we don't appreciate that. Unfortunately, this is one of the compromises if you want to have loads of power from a screaming redline, but at the same time still have the fuel efficiency of a small capacity engine. It's just going to have a lack of balls down low. In saying that, some owners really love the fact that if you want to change lanes or pull into traffic, you've got to rev the car to the heavens like some complete lunatic, but others, they don't. However, there is a positive to this lack of torque, and it's the fact that it gives you a moment just to think, to go, hang on a sec, do I really want to do this? Because what if there's a cop hiding around this next corner? However, to potentially make the matters of having to drop down a couple of gears and rev it out really hard to go anywhere even worse, quite a few owners have had issues with gear crunching between second and third gears. According to many of the experts that we spoke to, the car just needs its clutch master pushrod adjusted. Some owners claim that it's just an idiosyncrasy that's native to the car, and other owners haven't had an issue at all. Also, a few owners mentioned that they felt the steering was just a bit underwhelming. Apparently Toyota fixed this with a new steering rack after the update. But aside from all of that, it is such a fun car to drive, especially if you're driving it hard. There's this old saying that it's so much more fun to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slowly, and this is an excellent example of that. And that's not saying that this is a slow car, it's not. It certainly gets up and goes. Once you're way high up into that rev range and pissing everybody off in a 5-kilometer radius, it hauls. However, this is a really great example of Toyota dropping the ball. If they just invested some more money, this thing could have been so special. But you can fix this. Just fit a really high quality set of coilovers, a thicker rear anti-roll bar, really premium performance tires, and maybe even the LSD out of a Toyota MR2, and this thing, it can come alive. Actually, the reason that I bought one of these ages ago was because I was at a track day and there was a Sportivo with exactly that setup running around, and my God, it was bloody quick through the corners. And let's be honest, that's where you have the most fun, it's through the corners. And remember, when you're not up it for the rent, it just behaves like a sensible, normal little hatchback. Just a slightly rattly one with quite a firm ride. But look, I know what you're thinking. It's still a 20-year-old car. Does it still stack up to Toyota's amazing reputation for reliability? Well, unfortunately, I can't really elaborate on that because I'm not a qualified mechanic. You know who is? It's Jim.
So the 2Z and the 1Z engine in these, look, they are Toyota's workhorse from that time and look very reliable overall. And as Ad mentioned, the 2Z, well, that's actually used in a bunch of Lotus models as well. So if it's good enough for them, it's probably good enough for you. Although if they've been neglected, they can have some problems. And this goes for both of the engines in these. Look, oil consumption, in some cases, that was an issue from the factory, but not terribly common. But oil consumption is an issue if they've been neglected. And if they've been neglected, they can have problems with their variable valve timing gears and their timing chains. That just gums up and that can cause a terrible catastrophic engine failure. Whether they've been neglected or not, look, at this age you are going to see a few problems, things like coil packs and water pumps, alternators, things like that, they're all starting to age and they do break. And radiators as well, they fatigue and they start leaking too. So they're all sort of things you're going to have to look out for. The good news is all that stuff on these is actually pretty cheap. Plus they're pretty easy to work on, even if you're a do-it-yourselfer kind of person, pretty easy to do. Even if worst case scenario, the engine blows up in these things, there are so many of these on the road, you are always going to be able to get a replacement unit for a pretty good price.
So when it comes to if you should or shouldn't buy one of these, let's start with the normal run-of-the-mill Corollas first. If you're thinking, yeah, I should buy one, yeah, you're exactly right, you should. Obviously, make sure whatever example you're looking at checks out with all the critical pre-purchase inspection stuff, but if it does, 100% buy one. It's boring, sure, but chances are it will never let you down. But should you buy a Sportivo? I'm sorry, probably not. Unfortunately, it seems that there are more abused and ruined Sportivo models on the used market than quality examples. And if you can find one of the rare unicorns that has a perfect history and has clearly been looked after, yeah, snap that car up, because the Sportivo can be utterly brilliant. In fact, with intelligent mods, a Sportivo can be a genuine Civic Type R competitor for thousands of dollars less. But when it comes to the host of shitty ones that are on the used market, look, unless you're willing to throw money at it to get it back to its best, or you're buying one to be a project or a race track car, yeah, don't buy one. In fact, we argue that instead of buying a tired old Sportivo, you're going to be far better off buying one of these instead. But if you weren't to buy this or this, what other hot hatch would you buy? Let us know in the comments. See you next time.
In a few of the early models, there were a few issues with timing. That's not right. In a few of the early models, there were, oh wow.